came up towards our targets, as we saw. I don't need this move on here. Don't need to give myself pats on the backs every single time I open up a chart, do I? No, not really. So Link moved up towards our target. Nice. It did it within the time targets that we talked about. Nice. Now I kind of quite dislike. It's almost irrational. Without much of a reason for it, I quite dislike Fibonacci time analysis and everything else. To me, it feels so much more like hocus pocus than a lot of this other stuff from TA does. But nevertheless, I did one for this time here, and we talked about how we could be coming up towards our target there, place to take profit at. Now we're waiting to see how the second half of the scenario pans out with Link. Okay, we're waiting to see if we pull back down towards the towards any of these targets that we talked about before, or if we find ourselves just kind of careening on towards the top side ever since having come in with our high. We talked about that when the prices were in over here somewhere, saying that within this chunk of time expect to go up towards the 41. I think I was conservative about it and kept saying 41 instead of 44. I think that was due to just talking about going towards the top end of this pitchfork, for example, not really making much of a case about things. I could have been talking about 44 because 44 was well, I don't talk about my own trading, but 44 was something that meant something to me at the time, right? And but anyway, I talked about 41, and then, well, yeah, whatever. So now we want to know about if we're coming back down to these sorts of regions and how we're going to kind of pan out with regards to the Link price action over the period of the next wee while. We have pulled back a wee bit so far, and I want to put this into context as well. Like, I like putting this into context. I think it's very useful for people out there, and it's educational as well. So look, the 236 right here at the 39.56 price point. We see the lows today, 38.52. So obviously we've dipped quite a ways below that. How does that number line up with our previous low over here as we kind of look down to, if I'd drawn in the Fibonacci from over there, 38.92. You're seeing that the difference between which sort of departure point that we take with regards to the 236 isn't necessarily that huge between this low in at around about the 23rd of February and this low in at around about the 5th of March. And as you can see, that while it'll change the factor of this by a number of percentage points in terms of the golden pockets, etc., that it isn't that massive a deal. So in terms of the difference between these two, and this was a whole inflection area for us anyway. So there's often a debate, where do you draw your Fibonacci in from? That's essentially what I'm talking about. And I'm saying that this is one of these more debatable ones where normally, actually, to be honest with you, I'd say I'm going to take it from the significant low before we rose up, and I think it's clear to everybody's eyes that this would be where that would be at that round number of $20, etc., etc. Or I talk about taking it from the last real significant low before the push up the way. And I think to everybody's eyes, this is in terms of the last the real ultimate low before we impulsed up the way, or else the major low after the drop down, right? It's going to be one of those two, and that means that you can draw out a sort of zone in this region, and all of that really doesn't add up to a massive amount. Let me just, before I get rid of the Fibonacci, just to show you how there's always a degree of confluence, etc., that the 382 is coming in at where the 50 simple is here in the 4-hour time frame. The 618's at the middle point of that pitchfork, for instance, in it around about there. And if I pop it up to the 24-hour time frame and zoom on in a wee bit, then where do we have anything of note? Yeah, it's fine. Like this region here is all laid out with the pitchfork, etc., in the background, and well enough for us. We don't need that on there, but we can see this is the zone to be looking at, and can we stay above it? And so far we're doing so, which means so far we remain bullish, and that's very, very good. So if we're remaining bullish on this so far, etc., etc., where are we looking up to for our next profit taking targets? And we can look towards these three lines just in here. 49, 52, and 56 are the next three targets. The next three on chainlink, if we're able to stay above 37.